plug and play, turnkey. Now we should begin. I'm sharing it to the Beepers page from the Beepers profile.
On Facebook? Okay, got it. I see it.
There we go.
Smart chica.
All right, we're up.
Okay, I'm looking at it, look like it's a little delayed, but it's fine.
Yeah, just like a few seconds.
Yeah. I want to see if I can see comment. Like, can I see comments on this page?
Well, we have a few people so far. Hi, new people. Let us know if you can hear us all right.
Sound all good for the new people?
No complaints yet, so I guess so.
Okay.
Give it about another 3 minutes and then we can get started. How's everyone's weekend anyway?
Fantastic. Just great. Just great.
Not too hot, not cold. Just a happy in between, sunny and happy.
I went to the valley this weekend and it was hot.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the valley and it's hot.
I was like, yeah, this is why I can't live here. It's
right. As soon as I could, I was like, bye.
Way too hot.
All right.
Tanya, hey Tanya. Watched Ludacris and Nelly last night.
Yeah, well, I watched it halfway through. I totally forgot about it, and then so I missed. People were calling him Nelly Riley because he was having he was having technical difficulties. You know, the internet is undefeated, and so I got it like halfway through, and it just took me back to. It made me remember that we had strong knees before Meg Thee Stallion because we was dropping down and getting our eagle on. So it took me back to college, the good old days. So appropriate for this. That's why I bust out my old, you know, gown and everything. It was like kismet. Having that bring me back to like early days and all that.
Myself, I was like, oh wow, we were really getting down in high school to some of these songs. You know, I loved it, but it was fun. Like Ludacris, I'm always like, he's so incredibly talented, like speechlessly talented, but you almost forget about it.
I totally forgot. I'm like, yo, Ludacris spit. I totally forgot about that.
His flow is just, it's
Nelly was enjoying himself thoroughly, and so that was entertaining as well. So.
I loved seeing Luda bringing the afro back. I was like, okay.
and the wardrobe changes with everything else. With Atlanta always in the mix with the wardrobe changes. So, you know,
I love about him.
Down all day.
Ludacris is so kind, and he's always so nice and polite and kind. And he's just like, okay, you know, I'm just gonna give this man some love. Forget the tech difficulties. I'm like, this guy, he's got the talent. And he's just a nice person.
He's definitely grown up for sure, and it's nice to see like the younger people who probably know him from like Fast and Furious. I'm like, this is the Luda. Y'all may know Chris. We know Luda. Yeah. All right. Ready to get started, guys?
Let's do it.
Go.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to The Scoop. Thanks for joining us on this lovely Sunday. You can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. So, my name is Charlene Collier. I am the treasurer of Black PR Society LA. It's my honor and duty to serve with these lovely group of people. And so, as we said, we just wanted to. This is for our new grads. Hence why I dusted off my 10+ year graduation outfit to let you know that we were once where you are, and so we want to help you get where we are, right? And how do we do that without having people pull you up, give you the scoop, give you the tips of the trade? And this is what we're all about. We're all about educating community and all that. So we decided to put together a lovely panel of guests who are great in their respective professions. And so what we'll do is we'll have them introduce themselves individually, kind of just to give a brief synopsis of their journey to how they got where they are. And then we'll open up the questions. I have some questions that I have for the panel as well. But if anyone, this is for you guys. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And I'll put my question to the side because I want to hear directly from you all. Sounds good? All right. So I'm going to go in order from who I see first. So Miss Pam, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what set you're repping as far as school is concerned. And my set is the illustrious University of Maryland College Park. Go Terps.
College Park.
Woo! All right. So Ms. Pam, let us know where you repping and your journey to how you are, how did you get to where you are now?
Definitely. My name is Pamela Chinawa. I am a graduate of Cal State Northridge. Go Matadors. Woo! Rep my set. It's not as super exciting because it's a commuter school. Like, we love this. Go Matadors. Go LA. I am a SoCal native, born and raised, and first generation born in the US. So it's all a very interesting path, but here I am now currently working at Rogers & Cowan PMK, which is the largest entertainment PR agency in the world. We represent talent from Steph Curry and recently passed Kobe Bryant, Britney Spears, all the way down to Quibi, Verizon, across multiple businesses. And myself, I consider myself kind of a creative storyteller, which is really the reason why I got into communications in general. I saw the value of storytelling and what it can do for culture. And for me, really, if I'm being completely honest, everything I do in my life is really driven by a passion to uplift marginalized voices. And I found that the best way to do that to people, kind of give them a spoonful of medicine without them noticing, is to change what they're listening to and what they're watching. So that is how I got into entertainment. Started with a lot of internships and volunteering and moving from place to place, but here I am, and it's been a wild journey, but it's been a fun ride all the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Pam. Mr. Dwight, please rep your set.
I sure will. So Dwight Harvey II, again, thank you guys for joining. I think this is going to be a great conversation. I graduated from University of Virginia in 2006, so it was right before the crash. So starting NPR in sort of the entertainment space, it was definitely a uncertain times, not unsimilar to what we're experiencing now. My background is really sort of straddling, melding entertainment and tech to create culture, to create experiences. So I've had the opportunity to work for a ton of brands. I'm not going to list all of them now, but currently I am account director at Sunshine Sachs here in the LA office. We have offices all across the globe. And the business as a whole sort of has its hands in to everything from talent to social impact and nonprofit. I handle the tech accounts. So, it's really looking at, how can we create, a storyline for Adobe that gets them coverage, not just in CNET or some of the video trades or some of the trade publications, but how do we also get them and too complex, or what have you. So it's really creating those opportunities where you're building an experience, you're building a story from the ground up, and you get to leverage things like data and content and what have you to sort of make the story happen. I can't remember, was there anything else in the prompt that I missed? I feel like that's everything. So
thank you, Dwight.
yeah.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course, of course.
Who we repping?
So my full name, Marcus Angelo Moreno. I share in Pam's love for Cal State Northridge. I am a Matador too. Go Matadors, but I'm also, that was my graduate program. My undergrad was at Fresno State. So I have to give some Bulldog pride over here. Go Bulldogs. But yeah, my path to comms is a little unorthodox. I originated as a social scientist. I was an anthropologist, a marketing ethnographer. So pretty much what I do is clients will come to me and say, hey, we don't really understand our population or our audience or who we're trying to reach, can get to know them a little bit better. I go in, interview, spend the day with them, meet with them, do everything that I can, go back and then help my clients understand them better. Somewhere along the lines in my graduate program, I fell into PR and I never looked back. I still practice interviews, spend the day with them. I still practice anthro on the side, but yeah, that's my PR career. It's a lot of consumer brand. I love fandom. So if there's anybody who loves Sony, who's infatuated with Old Spice or Apple, whatever it is, I like making those connections via media, events, whatever it may be. That's what drove me to communications.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Dominique. Who we repping today?
All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I am a Cal State alum, but a different one. I am graduated from Cal State University, San Bernardino. So go Yotes. Currently, I am also a student at University of Redlands, the Burbank campus. So I guess the IE just keeps calling me back. Tried to leave it, and it just wants to hold me there. So that said, I'm originally from Riverside. My journey through this and through the beginning of my career was interesting. I took probably too long in a community college trying to find what it was that I was interested in, but it turned out to be a blessing. I started writing for a newspaper, and that's kind of what led me to communications and public relations. Now, professionally, I currently work as an IT communications lead at Kaiser for a specific project, a couple specific projects, handle all of their emailings and writings and all of their communications for that. A lot of my background is in healthcare, in social media, and in content creation, and a little bit of PR, but we meld it all together and we just find a way to tell the client or the organization's story the best way to the right audience.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. Thank you all for that. So before I get into my questions, are there any questions? I'm trying to see, can I see if there are any questions like in the chat before I dive in?
Questions yet?
No questions yet?
But I see Andre said, love beepers. Pat Tobin taught me to be a publicist. We love that. We love Pat Tobin. Holla at that. But carry on, Charlie.
All right. Well, good. I have lots of questions. So I know some people on this Zoom may or may not be comm professionals, and a lot of times some terminologies get intertwined. So can anyone help us realize what the difference between PR, publicist, content creator, some of the buzzwords that we're hearing in the industry, so we can help people decide which lane they may want to go in, and tell us how you all decided which lane you wanted to go in.
Sure. Who wants to take that one? Interested.
Yeah, I'm interested. So I think of a publicist as representing talent, specifically. PR at the end of the day, when you hear PR, it's all about like what stories, what earned media are you driving? But communications, you can pull several different levers in order to do that. And it's usually for a company or an organization or some sort of entity, a brand of sorts. So there's health comms, there's finance, there's crisis comms, there's brand comms. And in all of those communications roles, it's all about looking at the different verticals, right? So like, what partnerships do we have to leverage? What events should we show up at? What can we do on social? With the idea, or at least with the goal of creating one program that is going to drive press. So that's sort of like the PR end of it. but comms people tend to have more skills than just media relations. From my partnerships do we have to leverage? What events should we show up at? What can we do on social? With the idea, or at least with the goal of creating one program. You guys, we gotta mute the Facebook. If you guys have the Facebook window also open, you gotta mute that too, friends.
All right, are we good?
We're good. Sorry. Dwight, were you still speaking or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Anyone else want to kind of chime in on that question, or kind of tell us how you decided, with all these different verticals under the communication umbrella, how did you all decide which route you wanted to go? Or did it kind of just did life happen and you kind of fell into it?
Life kind of happened. I like your definition, Dwight. That was spot on with publicity. But yeah, when I first started, I started at a larger firm, and it was PR marketing as it was labeled. But we did everything from publicity to talent management to social media. I was like, oh, I thought PR was just media. No, it's everything. And so you're so involved. So that's how I was kind of thrown into it. So I got my feet wet a little bit in each little section there, and then had to kind of grow all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for myself, I would say it really just ended up being the nature of the industry. So, I graduated with a degree in journalism with an emphasis in public relations, but coming into the world, especially this modern world, especially on the brink of social media, and when that was really breaking out in terms of influencers and celebrity engagement, there aren't options other than to know everything. You might decide you only want to focus on one thing, but the matter of fact is there's no way you can legitimately work in communications or PR or marketing or anything without understanding the whole ecosystem. And that's really my job right now, is looking at the entire ecosystem. I work in a blended department that is communications and marketing, and I'm the only proper trained public relations person there. So everything that they do in terms of looking at social media and running talent accounts or coming up with events for big brands, whatever the case is, there always has to be a PR angle to it and a PR mind. And I think public relations is a really interesting career in the sense that we are, at the end of the day, the problem solvers and troubleshooters. We're always looking 20 steps ahead to see what's the potential problem, how do you solve for it now instead of later. So it really is one of those things, my career just happened. It was kind of happenstance in terms of relation to the industry as a whole and how it's developed over the years.
Yeah, similar to everyone else, I think my career kind of just happened. I got my degree in PR, but my first job out of college was more of a social media role. So I kind of had to go and learn social media. And then that helped me to see my love for data and being able to pull in these numbers and see how can we improve campaigns. And we kind of moved on through my career. And as Dwight was saying, understanding which levers do we pull? Is this a PR campaign? Is this a social media campaign? Do we need to just put out print material? Which avenue are we going to take? So that's where I kind of found my love for content creation, just creating different graphics, film and video, and seeing how can we use all of these different levers to tell the story the best.
Thank you. So I know you all have skin in the game, and I know a lot of people are transplants in LA who come here because they want to get into particularly the entertainment industry or some type of PR media world. And this is the scoop, right? So what tea or scoop can you give those listening for maybe your path wasn't to graduate with a degree in journalism or comms, maybe it was sociology or anthropology or something different, and they want to pivot, right? But then they keep hearing, well, you can't get in unless you have this experience. And you're like, well, I can't get the experience unless you give it to me. I've been there. So what advice would you give people who are trying to pivot into this profession?
So I got a degree in history and philosophy. So I think I'm the only one on the call that studied nothing to do with comms. I think in graduating in 2006, I was able to get internships. That was back then. That's how you sort of get your foot in the door. I think that's still true today, but I think you also have to, given the current climate, be a little more scrappy, right? I think network, there's a ton of, especially for Los Angeles, I know, there's a bunch of people that are independent contractors. I would honestly figure out how to help them out and learn from them. Because everybody needs an extra pair of hands. Being an independent contractor is hard, especially if you're used to having a team or having, a firm's resources or a company's resources. So they're always going to need help. So I'd look at, networking opportunities. I'd be all over LinkedIn and see, what kind of companies people are, promoting themselves like crazy right now because everyone's sort of stuck at home. But they're also sharing expertise. So if something resonates with you, reach out to them and try to be a resource, try to learn. Also, I have mentors, both from a, professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. And I think that's really, really important. My mentors, I have some that work with me, but then also my most valuable mentors are ones that have either, were a professor and that I had years ago that I've just kept in touch with, or past bosses or managers, or, just other people that I've sort of met. If you see someone, and I think this is another value to LinkedIn, if you see someone that is sharing a project that they worked on and it just resonated really well with you, reach out to them, try to figure out how they did it, connect. So I think it's the power of the network, it's being creative. And I think independent contractors definitely need help right now. So that's my advice.
Great advice, Dwight. Anyone else?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think the power of connection is something that people think about in very narrow terms. And I think a lot of success when it comes from networking and connecting people is honestly just completely by chance. It is being open to chance and opportunity. And obviously now we're primarily stuck in our homes. We're not necessarily on planes and buses and all that good stuff. But when you are on a plane, are you putting on your headphones as soon as you sit down and not talking to anyone? Or did you say hi to your neighbor and find out that they are a VP or a president at this big brand that maybe you guys don't have anything to work on now, but maybe 6 months down the line, they're looking for an agency or whatever the case is. So I think a lot of these opportunities, especially when you're talking about network, sometimes people will be like, oh, you're lucky you got to do this, or you worked so hard because you got to do this. And granted, hard work is at the end of the day the thing that's going to propel you forward, but it's also just having your eyes open to opportunities and chances that present themselves. And if you're not looking for them, you'll never have the opportunity to take advantage of them. So I think that network component is really about just letting yourself be open to possibility, and the possibility that truly anyone you meet could be of benefit to you, you could be of benefit to them, or it could be a connection that you make for other people down the road, which makes you extremely valuable to the people within your own network.
Awesome. And then Marcus, you had a comment you wanted to make? Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, I came outside of PR, science and all that stuff. And so I'll be real, the scoop, you gotta hustle. I mean, it came to a point where I couldn't take the classes at CSUM for PR because I couldn't get out of my grad program to take those particular classes. So like Dwight said, I took on mentors. I reached out to people. I put my head out there. I shared my name and my network and everything I have to offer and what I want to take in. And I try to be as genuine as possible, not only to take in the knowledge of my mentors and who's out there, but to get to know them and to possibly create a friendship. So I think there's a bit more that I want to add on top of that, is that genuine friendship and relationships that you can build with. And I think Pam is a great example because we've gone back years and we've networked together, but we got to know each other. We got to be good friends. So just hustle, meet those people and really establish those great relationships.
I would definitely piggyback on what Marcus, all of you said, and Dwight, about especially the power of LinkedIn. I know I didn't properly introduce myself, so I apologize for those that are on the Zoom. I have been in HR for 14 years. And so LinkedIn is popping right now, I'm telling you, right? Like LinkedIn has whoever kind of rebranded them, because the LinkedIn used to be this thing where people didn't really go on. Now it is the premier place that recruiters go on, you know, talent acquisition, employee engagement. People are on, it's like the Facebook and IG for the professional world. And so many connections happen there. People do check their emails, which is DMs for those of you who don't understand what that is. And that is definitely where you connect. Hashtags are real. Everything you can do, it's truly a social media platform. And so I definitely encourage people to utilize LinkedIn. Also, like Pam said, when you're just being out and about, right, in the world, you'd be amazed at how many people that you come across just from having a conversation and getting your head out of your phone and being present, right? I always say success is when preparation meets opportunity. And so you will not have the opportunity if your head is in your phone, right? So, you know, have a conversation, say hello, speak, and you'd be surprised at how many things can come from that organic connection. Okay, especially in LA, where people have this, I say this negative depiction that everyone's fake. That's not been my ministry. I've met amazing people in LA. There's fake people everywhere, and so, but if you have that organic connection, you'll see how successful you can be. Okay, Dominique, did you have a comment before I go to the ask you some questions?
Yeah, I'll just add first, I concur with everyone. Networking is so key. Finding a mentor is absolutely crucial. My greatest mentor was my aunt who works in business, and she keeps it real, raw, and uncut. She tells me when I'm doing great and tells me when I need to get it together. I would also add, you know, so many people think when they want to make a pivot that they immediately need to run back to grad school. And I think that's beautiful. I'm in that journey now. Some others are. I think it's a great journey, but it's a lot of money and it's a lot of time, and you don't need it immediately. If you want to do it, go for it. But I think there's so many other avenues to try. You could try just teaching yourself. There are so many ways to learn that some of the things that we do that are available. We all have friends who are trying to be an actress, model, DJ, list goes on. Do they need help with their social media? Do they need help with their PR communications? See if you can offer these services. And while you're helping them, you're helping yourself learn and grow. So that's what I'd say.
That was a whole word. That was a whole, I'm sorry, that was a whole word. Speaking as someone who is still paying for this outfit that I have on, a lot of times you're just like, and you know, I grew up in a time where like Facebook came out when I was graduating. Like I had to use my alumni email address to even get on Facebook back when you needed a, you know, college address. And so now that, you know, there's so many things at your fingertips, everything in the world is literally in these phones here. College education is great, but to Dominique's point, there's so many other avenues. A lot of times we kind of fall back on that as a blankie, like, oh, I want to learn, let me go to school. There's so many other avenues to do that. But I'm sorry, Pam, you had to take them.
Yeah, no, it's such a critical point, and I've always been the person who thought, you know, I think that's a really common question for people in their senior year is, should I go to grad school? What should I do? And I've always, love it or hate it, I've always been the person that said no. Like, unless you know for a fact that that degree is going to benefit your career right then, wait, like chill out, wait, or unless you're going into a career that requires it. So if you want to go into education, whatever the case is. But if you're going into PR, for the most part, you're going to start at the same level, whether or not you have that degree. And the thing is you can get that experience for the first 4 years. You can go work for 8 years. And then once you hit that ceiling, if you hit a ceiling, but once you hit that ceiling, then you go, oh, now I'm at a point where I need that extra degree. Or if I want to get this, jump to this next title with this great salary, I need a degree in order to do that. So a lot of times I feel like students go through that extra step just for the sake of it, but it's not necessarily beneficial to their long-term goals. But on top of that, you have to think about after you graduate from school, you might spend 20 years, 10 years, 30 years in this career. And a lot of people don't go back to school, but they're still learning the whole time they're in this career. So to rely on school as this end all be all of education just falls flat on its face when you're looking at the facts. Most of us are going to spend most of our life not in school. And on the other hand, you can have mentors, you can mentor yourself. I'm a big fan of self-mentorship, and that means reading, that means listening to podcasts. I think I listened to 4 podcasts this morning, like just expanding your mind via, you can have Steve Jobs as a mentor if you go read about his work. You know, you could go have these massive business juggernauts understand their knowledge, understand their path and what they did to change their industry if you put in the self-effort to go learn about it. And you won't have to pay a $70,000, you know, bill to get a degree for it. You'll just, you know, get on your Kindle for $9 a book or whatever the case is, rather than that $70K that you're going to have to pay off after however many years. But I think when people make that decision, they really have to think about what it's going to do for their career and if it actually is adding a benefit to it.
Amen.
I would
The only reason why I still have this is because I had that 70,000 bill, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep this forever. Okay.
I would add to that
Mhm.
that if you do go to grad school, because I loved grad school, it's great, but also because I loved, geeked over what I was studying. So if there are any students who want to go to grad school, I agree with everybody that you don't necessarily need a master's degree for PR. But if you do decide to go to grad school, make sure you love what you're doing so much that you're willing to read 25 books per semester. Your weekends are gone. I mean, that's grad school. Stress, anxiety, same stuff you get in PR, but now it's on a, you know, on a greater scale. Just make sure you love it and you'll get through it. So I want to say, don't make that decision based on a whim or just, you know, because of the situation we're in now. Just think about it. Do I absolutely love what I'm doing so much that it's going to be my life 24 hours a day and about 30 books per semester into it?
Amen. Amen. So I see some comments in the Facebook chat. So let me hop over there. One comment that actually goes to what we're talking about. The person asks, is job shadowing still a thing or available, despite the new reality of social distancing or virtual work life? Is that still a thing, guys? Job shadowing?
I'm not seeing any during COVID, during the pandemic, but I think you can still, I think it just goes back to the mentor. Like if you have strong mentors, you can, you know, discuss and try to set up a situation where you are learning through shadowing, you know, whether it's joining and I do this for some of my junior team members who are really, really, you know, trying to learn how to pitch and understand like how to talk about a brand or a client with a reporter. You know, I'll let them listen in on a call. So we'll do a 3-way. They're sitting on mute, and you know, I try to do that as often as possible. But I feel like companies as a whole are doing a little less shadowing, like officially right now. But that's not to say that you can't identify a mentor who would be open to that.
Any other comments on that?
Right. I think especially mentors, like Dwight said earlier, contractors, people who run small businesses, who run their own firms, like those people who, especially right now, are trying to understand how to pivot in this scenario, especially with going digital, or maybe their client base was not set up to be digital at all. Like whatever the case is, there are definitely people out there with needs, and a lot of them are those people who are smaller. And on top of that, they're looking for someone who understands the digital landscape. And not to say the younger you are, you automatically understand something, because trust me, I've seen some Gen Z kids who you would think were never on social media. Like it goes both ways. But if you're younger and you have this adaptive personality, you've already been on social, you've done digital, you have a world of opportunity, because there are a lot of people who've worked in this industry who just never bothered because they didn't have to. So now they're in a precarious position because they're like, ooh, I never thought I would need this. Mm-hmm. You're new, you're fresh off the block. Let's go, let's do it. Apply those skills and fill in those spots where they're needed. And I think that go-getter, hungry attitude goes a long way, especially when people feel like you're helping them out.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like this is a great time if you're very innovative. This is the time, like it's such fertile ground. I'll give you an example. So I work for OpenTable. So as you don't know, of course, it's the dining reservation platform. And of course, our business is like on life support right now because there's no dine-in. And so we had to quickly pivot and say, well, how are we going to help restaurants during this time where they can't do dine-in? Or how are we going to get our brand still out there where no one's dining in? So we quickly pivoted and we did OpenTable grocery, because we noticed that there's these line at Trader Joe's and line, and Target and all these places to get in. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if you could just make a reservation to get into the store and say you don't have to wait in that line? And boop, that's when Open Table Grocery was spawned. Literally in a week. We had a conversation in the staff meeting on Monday. The following week, a product team already had it up and running. So, these quick innovative, this is the time, right? Where people are trying to find out how to pivot quickly, because even once we get off punishment and we go outside, life is not going to be the same. So we have to figure out how to navigate post-COVID.
Right.
Along the lines of questions about job shadowing, we have a recent graduate. I'm gonna shout you out, Ms. Kendall. Congratulations. She graduated with a master's degree in PR from USC. And of course, she's saying that I didn't expect to be graduating in a pandemic. You're reaching out to, the network with fashion, entertainment, comms, possible positions, and even volunteering. Any additional advice for job searching during this time when many facets of the industry are on pause?
I would actually say, I will contest that statement only in saying that there are parts of the industry that are on pause, but there are other parts of the industry that have shot off like rocket ships. Mm-hmm. So you can't really look at the full picture and apply a micro part of the industry to the entire industry, because I know for a fact that digital entertainment right now is on fire. Quibi happened to launch right at the start of the pandemic. They're hiring. Like a lot of these tech entertainment brands are hiring like crazy. Apple's hiring like bananas. Amazon, like all of these tech entertainment brands are really taking advantage of the fact that they are built for this world. They are built for a digital world. They are built for captive audiences. So in that vein, you have to think about, is this the path that I want to go down? Are these the types of companies I want to work for? And all of that can be weighed against the fact that you are in the middle of a pandemic and you need to get a job. Like at the end of the day, you have to kind of balance these things. But the reality is there are a lot of industries that are hiring right now. I guarantee you healthcare PR has not stopped. They have not slowed down. They've started working harder. So there are a lot of aspects that you can easily say, oh my God, the world is on pause, but it's not. The world is turning because we're all here. We're the lucky ones, we're living, we're breathing. But the world still has to service us in some way or another, which means these companies don't stop working, which means our jobs don't end. So I contest that statement because there are opportunities out there. You just have to be creative in understanding these different landscapes and who's doing what right now.
Agreed. Any other comments?
I just want to piggyback on that. I think the diversification piece of your search is really important, to Pam's point, because I see in the comments that this particular viewer is looking at fashion and entertainment, which I'm assuming probably means like live entertainment or something like that. But really, I mean, communications is so broad. There are so many companies that are out there that, literally the pivots that Charlene's talking about, that all of us on the phone are dealing with, trying to understand, digital and social media. Like I had one of our team members literally sit me down and teach me how to use TikTok. And part of her job each week is to update me on what is going on over there, because that might spark something for me to do with my client. So I think it's tough. I think definitely diversify some of the parts of the industries that you're looking for jobs in.
Yeah, I want to just add again, as Pam was saying, there are jobs out there, and I'm not saying you're not hungry. I'm not saying you don't want it, but you have to be more hungry. You have to want it more. That resume that you fire off to 100 people, if there's a job that you want, take the time to build out a custom tailored resume specifically for that job. And I'll also add, I think when I came out of my undergrad, I wanted to go into the automotive industry, hell-bent on working for the automotive industry. Life kept dragging me back into healthcare. I tried to get out of healthcare. It dragged me right back into healthcare. And now I'm saying that I actually love it and I enjoy it. And it fulfills a dream that I had when I was a kid that I had forgotten about. So be willing to, yes, I'm not telling you to abandon your dreams or go away from your perfect industry, but be willing to expand, because you might find something that you love even more than what you thought you actually wanted.
Sure. Marcus, any comments or you?
Yeah, just to add to what Dominique there said is when you do venture out of a industry or space that you were so, you know, targeted on, and you go off to healthcare and you wanted to do fashion, when you come back to fashion, if you presented the opportunity, you bring in new perspectives, new ideas, new thoughts, even though it's not the same industry space, because at times you see the same kind of recycled ideas going in the same industry. And so when you do bring on those different ideas, you know, oh, wait, I was in healthcare and I remember we did this and we kind of collaborated here and it kind of fits this model, you're gold. You're gold.
Awesome.
On
Awesome.
Marcus's note, real quick, I just want to say Hyundai is going to hire me one day. I don't know when. I'm getting out of healthcare and Hyundai is going to hire me. So thank you, Marcus.
And it'd be perfect because, you know, when they're talking about consumer safety stuff and you're talking about, you know, healthcare and what people care about and accidents and all that good stuff, I don't know, it all comes together somehow.
And we talk about networking. You know, I used to work at Mercedes, Dominique. So, you know, let me know. I got some connects still. See? Already. Networking.
It sounds point. It happens anywhere and at any time.
Anywhere. I didn't even know. I've known, I mean, for how many months now? Didn't even know he wanted to do automotive. We got to talk later. Okay. Another question from the chat. What was a problem that you've had while working in the industry and how did you overcome it?
I mean, it's such a general question because I think our industry is the industry of problems. Like literally what we do is problem solving. So literally every day of my job is there's a problem, let's solve it. So, and I think problem solving, really the base of it is training your brain to understand and observe problems and how to fix them. And I really encourage people to do that. And you'll probably hear me throughout this entire thing is just talking about reading and personal growth and expanding your knowledge. But it comes down to even what Marcus said, switching industries. If you have a set of knowledge that you think has nothing to do with PR, hold on to it and grow it. Curiosity is the biggest skill set you could possibly have, not just in this industry, but just as a person who wants to grow and do well in life. The curiosity to learn and understand new things, to absorb new pieces of information, because that can be applied somewhere down the line and you never had an idea. I could be working on a campaign tomorrow and these random facts that I know about diversity demographics in the US or purchasing power or whatever the case is, all of these different kinds of pieces of information can impact your strategy. It can inform your strategy. And how you react to different things. If you know that certain audiences react poorly to this versus that, or you know the history of this versus that, all of these things make a difference in how you solve problems. So I would encourage people to just always be running the A, B, C, D scenario in your head. Plan for the worst case scenario. That way you can stay calm when it comes up. But honestly, just the curiosity and understanding the world makes all the difference.
Any other comments for that question? The major problems you may have
overcome? So I don't know if it's a major problem, but something to bring it back to students and people who are maybe just graduating or starting their first job or looking for the first job, whatever it may be. Writing. I know everybody in PR knows how to write well, but just continue to improve that writing skill set. And not just in PR, but in different ways of writing. So something that I love right now that kind of brings in my science world and my PR is science comms. So a lot of scientists, because you know there's so many conspiracy theories out there, there's so much misinformation, have learned that the way they communicate is very big words and jargon, and nobody's going to get it. They're not able to grasp that. So science comm is something, and so a lot of them right now are learning how to write with that whole marketing PR mindset, right? To the point, concise, efficient. The message comes across, and you know, kind of take back whether your audience is taking it in. Again, that all comes back down to writing. So a problem that I experienced coming out into PR was I didn't know how to write PR, and so book after book. UCLA provides a great PR writing class by Joanne Colleen, and there's just take those opportunities to learn to write well. And then I always tell students too, if you think you're the best writer ever, you're not. You can write much better than that. And if you think you're terrible at writing, you're not. You just have a different skill set and you can learn it. So I hope that kind of answered the question there or kind of brought it all back together, but that would be my advice to everybody is to always practice your writing.
Yeah. My advice would be, I'm going to make it kind of drawing on my own personal experience. You know, we come out of college with a whole lot of fire and energy, and you're just ready to jump in and go. I tell you to stop. Like, it's great that you have ideas and you're ready to go, and don't ever lose that. But take time to learn your profession, to learn office etiquette, to build a relationship with your manager, because those things are going to be important to your growth and how you continue to learn. And then instead of being a fresh-eyed kid coming out of college with the big grand ideas, you learn the development of every small step to build into your big grand idea. So that would be my advice. It was a problem that I dealt with coming out of college for me. I just wanted to run in and like, yo, let's do this. What are you doing? I know how to do that. Let's do this. So don't do that.
Yes, I love that. The office etiquette, the basic skills, my goodness. Because
Talking on the phone.
your idea is, if you don't know the basics of like how a business operates, who cares about your big idea? And it's not going to go anywhere. Like, you just need to have the basics in there.
To piggyback on that, so you know that's so true. You know, we get out of college and we have this idea of what the work life is going to be like, and it looks nothing like that. And even in your profession. So talk to us about difference between, you know, like a more like a PR tactician, like what you probably be doing when you first come out, versus the PR strategist, which is pretty much what I think people see that they want to be, but they don't know that they have this tactician part first that they have to go through.
Well, one's rooted, one's rooted in just the execution of it all, right? Like, what does a really good media list look like? You know, how do you research? How can you tell whether you should go to the senior editor here versus a beat reporter over there? And really understanding, you know, that piece of it. How do you write an email merchandising the work that you just completed for a client in a way that makes it sing, that definitely emphasizes the strategy and the approach and the thoughtfulness that went into it, down to like, how do you use Excel? You know, a lot of, you know, the kids coming out of college these days, like, also they're not comfortable using the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So calling a publication to say like, hey, you know, can I have the back issue of such and such edition of this publication? And they're like really nervous. Like, a lot of people don't know how to use the phone these days. But it's little things like that that I think are definitely useful.
Any other?
Yeah, I would say like looking at strategy versus tactics, strategy is something that takes honestly years to really understand. And again, that it comes with experience, because regardless of how much you're educated, especially, you know, a lot of us probably took courses in strategy. It doesn't really matter how much you're educated, because the real learning comes in the experience and the execution. And there are some things that there's just no shortcut for. There just is no shortcut for experience. No matter what you do, you can't shortcut experience. And that goes the same with being able to strategize, being able to manage other people. You can't shortcut learning how to manage other people. You just have to go through the process of learning how to do it. But strategy is something that comes with, like I said, understanding the business, understanding the agency model versus an in-house model. What are the goals of this business over the year or for this campaign? How does what we do ladder up to that goal? What are your key performance indicators? Also, just understanding the landscape. So understanding your consumers, the demographics, the media landscape, and all of these things they're not a hard science. It's not a hard skill set. So there's no way that you can go and teach someone how to do it. They just have to learn it over time. It's an osmosis situation. So the tactics come really in handy there, because regardless of the strategy and how high powered, how high level it is, you need people to execute it. So everyone on the team plays a critical role. And that's something that I'm constantly wanting to explain to people early in their career. You might be annoyed with building that media list or updating the media list. And trust me, we get it. It's not fun. It's awful. No one wants to do it. But the fact that you're doing it is so critical for the success of the business. If you screw up that media list, that means your outreach is screwed up. It means the response you're getting are screwed up. It means your campaign's going to fall flat from the get. And so everyone plays a really critical role, but I think when you're mastering those small pieces, you're able to understand the big picture, and people are able to trust you with the big picture. They're able to pull you into the conversation and say, you know what do you think about this? This is the strategy we came up with. If you were the customer, what would you think? So I think those are the ways that you grow and get up into those situations, but it really starts with understanding and mastering the smallest things and what they mean to the success of the business.
And I just want to piggyback on that, Pam. I think you're absolutely right. Like so much of, when you start to do a lot of strategy, a lot of it's intuitive based, right? Like you are going off of the data that you've got, right? Like what's the problem that we're trying to solve? What are the KPIs? What do I know about my target? What do I know about the product? And then having an understanding of the media landscape. But then, after years and years of being asked to pitch stories earlier in your career that maybe you didn't come up with that strategy, right? And you're the one in the front line trying to get the results. So you're getting the feedback from the media. So you start to learn what might work and what won't work.
Right.
And oftentimes, depending on the company that you're working at, the people that are really responsible for the overarching top line strategy, it's been a while since they've been in the trenches. So when you get to the point when you can start to sort of make builds and look at the strategy that's given to you from a new perspective, that's when you're ready to write it. When someone comes to me and challenges, what I'm saying based on something that they know, and they can show me the articles and the data to back it up, I'm like, great, perfect, you're now ready. So I will start to work with you to have you do the first draft of strategies. We can talk things through. Yada, yada, yada. But the intuition part is huge.
Awesome. Another question from the chat. What does your day-to-day look like in this COVID/stay-at-home era? Is it much different than how you were used to engaging with your clients, for example? I guess you guys are still trying to navigate that, I'm sure. Like every day is probably...
They look like this. This is what it looks like. I'm sitting in front of my laptop, I'm wearing pants today. I definitely brushed my teeth. I have my big gallon of water, and I'm just on the phone, on a lot of video calls. We're getting to the point though now where, at least more often now than at the beginning of COVID, where I'm turning a lot of things away from video calls to just be regular phone calls, because maybe I want to go walk around the block. My hours, as I'm sure everyone can attest to, are crazy. Like there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 and communications as it is. But now it's just, when we hang up, like I will be doing some work today just so that I can figure out how to manage my week. And then for those of us that are parents, it looks completely different. So it's a lot of juggling hours and organization and all of those things. There's a lot of pivoting. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm the same. And I think it's funny because it speaks to kind of one of the misconceptions about communications. And I think maybe a lot of that has to do with depictions in popular culture with like Sex and the City and Entourage and what people think a publicist is. But most of us, most of the time, are behind a computer sending emails all day. So that might change depending on your vertical. If you're a talent publicist and you have to be off on a shoot, whatever the case is, or if you're doing events. But even leading up to those moments, most people in communications are behind a screen for 9 hours a day, sending emails, picking up the phone. So it's not this hoity-toity glamorous job, it is a computer job. So that hasn't changed at all. We're still behind a computer 9 hours a day, maybe even longer. I think the difference, like you said, Dwight, is there's a lot more video calls, and we're having to adapt more to not having inter-office relationships. And we work in communications, so nonverbal communication. What does that look like when you can't see your coworkers anymore? How do you communicate then? How do you go back and forth with brainstorming or exchanging ideas? We're all trying to adapt to that. So even texting has become a lot more frequent, or using Slack or any kind of messenger systems like that. I I think right now over communication is very important. And even in your written word, like Marcus was talking about earlier, writing is so important to this industry, but especially now, if you're working separate from each other, being able to concisely and clearly communicate your thoughts is so critical. And if you can't do that, there's going to be problems. And, you know, I think most people have probably run into those instances a few times by now where you thought you were on the same page about something until you got there and you were like, whoa, we did not have the same definition of whatever we were talking about. So right now, really, that written communication skill is so critically important.
Dominique, what about you?
Yeah, I would say for me, so I'm in-house, so I'm in-house at Kaiser, but I can attest to too many phone calls, too many video calls. Someone on my team calls me multiple times a week for questions. I'm like, dude, I need you to call help desk. Like, that ain't even me, man. I mean, I'll help you, but you know, that ain't me. In any case, so for us, the project that I'm on, we actually had to go through a massive kind of redo with our business case strategy and redevelop how we were going to present this, including, you know, the pandemic and why this business case and why this project is important to Kaiser and its future. So that was a big change for us. And that has brought in more meetings and more phone calls and more, hey, can you rewrite this a million times? But I think it's a part of the nature of the beast. As you guys have heard, like, communications is definitely not a 9-to-5 job. You know, I try to be off at 5. I try my best to be off at 5. You know, 5:30, 6:30. We just keep it rolling until I feel comfortable that, all right, this is a good ending place. I'm not going to be in trouble tomorrow.
Awesome. Marcus, what about you?
Yeah, I would just, the one thing I want to say to this is I actually miss office culture. For the longest in my career, I thought working from home was the coolest, which it is. It's not bad. Or just kind of having that divide there, but being away from an office so long, not being able to see my colleagues and my friends, or to just like walk over to somebody's cube and just, you know, play a prank on them. I miss that so much. But I think that's where I want to go with that. It's just like, God, I miss that office culture and I cannot wait till normal comes back.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I don't know how long that'll be. From an HR perspective, it's going to be a while. So we have to have our new normal. I'm going to go back to the chat questions in a minute, but I had a question that came up in my mind when Dominic said he works in-house. And I know the Y and Pam, you work the agency. Can you speak to the difference between the two, right? In-house versus agency, is one better than the other? Do you have to have a certain personality for one versus another? What are your thoughts on that?
I will start by saying that first off, I think everyone should go through agency life at some point, even if it's only for a year or two. It's the absolute best way to train yourself and to understand really, truly what you're doing. It's a great way to understand business operations and also to get a variety of experience because you're servicing multiple clients who all have different demographics. They all have different goals. They all have different products. So you're constantly having to learn around variables. Versus in-house, you have one client, unless maybe it's something like a production studio, you have a new film every year, whatever the case is. But generally speaking, you have one client, you have one mission, you have one goal. So agency life for me is something where you have to really be, I wouldn't say thick-skinned, but you have to persevere. You have to be a self-motivator. Agency life does have a reputation for being a lot more dog eat dog than in-house. And depending on the agency you go to, that's true, it's not true. But it's just a place where things move so rapidly. You don't get the time to sit there and think over a strategy for 3 months before you execute, because you also have to be planning a strategy for this client, this client, this client. You have a release this day, you have an event this day, you have blah, blah, blah the next day. So it's a lot more touch and go. It's really fast. There's a lot more players. The turnover tends to be higher just because people are coming in and out more frequently. So that means you might not build as strong relationships with your managers or the people below you. So there's just different dynamics that come with it. the politics of business, I guess, but I find agency life is a great place to learn. And I honestly don't think there's any substitute in those ways of being able to be exposed to so many different kinds of clients at once.
Any other comments around?
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what Pam said. I've spent in total maybe about a year in agency life. I personally prefer in-house for many of the reasons that Pam said. But I do think that when you've come out of college, when you're fresh out of college, if you can't land an agency job, I would not recommend, if you're going to be in-house, that you go with the Kaiser, with something really big, because you're not going to get as much of that foundational experience that's necessary. If you go in-house for a smaller company, it will be fast paced. You will be moving. A lot of things are going to get thrown at you. You're going to have to really learn how to build relationships quickly while also managing your workload, which is, I guess I got that from Savant Community Clinic, which is very small, but in any case. So, but I do enjoy in-house because you do have the time to kind of build out strategy a bit more. There are multiple teams. Everyone can use someone that can write. There's a lot of people that can't write in this world. So you do have the opportunity to help out in other teams if they need it. But yeah, I do believe that agency life fresh out of college is great. And if not, a small in-house role.
I'd like to offer an interesting perspective on this, just from my friends and clients who are friends as well, who have either stayed on the agency side, have done agency, and then have gone in-house. They're not necessarily, I mean, it's still fast-paced. I think it depends on the companies that you're talking about. And I guess with my background primarily being tech, like my tech clients are, you know, they're crazed. They're trying to keep up with a million things. Other groups are saying dumb stuff, and then they're like, wait, like, no, you can't go out there and say that. So like their anxiety level is just as high, I think, but in a different way. Like on the agency side, it's high because it's like, okay, not only are you trying to turn out the results, you're trying to perform and overperform in your job at your title and your expectations, but at the end of the day, like agency, it's sales. We're all salespeople. You know, you have to go out and pitch business. You have to convince people to continue giving you money. There's 100% a level of that in-house, right? As far as like buying for budget and things like that. But really, truly, for those of us on the agency side of things, like it's sales. That's really what we're doing. And I would also agree with both of you guys that I would recommend that most folks, if you can, start out at an agency, because that's when you're going to gain all of those things, including like the presentation skills from a sales standpoint that you will also need to use whether you're in-house or not, right? But yeah, that's from my perspective. I look at agency as more of like the sales gig out of the two, but I don't know if you guys agree.
I can see that being the case, especially like right now when agencies are losing clients and especially agencies that are built on events or built on in-person experiences, whatever the case is. And you're like trying to think of how do we keep this client? What can we actually tell them to pivot to that makes sense? 2, how can we convince them that they still need us while they make that pivot? And 3, like, how do we just present this to them? So like that definitely is a sales aspect. And I think a lot of people undervalue that that client relationship really does depend on your ability to sell what you're selling, to sell your skill set, to sell the tools of your agency and convince someone else that you are worth the money. Because as we all know, communications tends to be a budget that gets cut quickly, very quickly, even though it makes no sense. It gets cut very quickly. And then people are left wondering like, why didn't we have the right response to that terrible happenstance? And you're like, well, what budget did you cut first? So it's really understanding like what these clients don't know about themselves and what you can do to fill that hole, which is a sales thing. That's a sales thing. It's a sales as much as selling a car to someone and asking them like, what do you do on your weekends? Do you go off-roading or do you go on a drive down PCH? Like it all is the same thing.
Yeah. And I also want to add, as I'm sort of going back to what the purpose of this talk is, right, for recent grads and I think there's that age-old question, like, do I go, let's take COVID out of the picture for a second. But I think the age-old question is like, well, do I go in-house or do I go to an agency? And a lot of that is driven by, you know what, 9 times out of 10, compensation is going to be stronger, even at an entry-level position for in-house. But with an agency, like you just, like, there are so many things that you learn at an agency. Like, it's always a good idea to start there. Like, and I try not to be super definitive about things, but most of the really successful people I know that have gone on to do marketing at like big tech brands, you know, that got their start at an agency, and they are just some of the smartest people. There is not a single problem that, you know, can present themselves to them where they feel like they couldn't figure it out. And I know a lot of that comes with just rolling up your sleeves, and you're just pushed into things. Like, I ran a whole environmental program like when I was 22 for Lexus for Alicia Keys's tour. Like, I didn't know what
Right.
they were like, we're honoring inner city schools who have, you know, green programs, environmental programs. Well, that's not a thing because they don't have the finances for even books. So I was literally calling, I had my markets that I had to figure out that we had to book schools in, and just rolled up my sleeves and called every high school I could. And it was crazy, but like, those are experiences that you can only get from being on the agency side.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the networks too, right? Because you could, like, to Pam's point, you have so many clients. And so you're networking and meeting tons of different people and tons of different industries. So you kind of expand your network too. I'm sorry, Pam, you were saying something.
And I was just going to say that goes right back to there's no shortcut for experience. So like, if you could have a fantastic job at a dream company, maybe it's Disney, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's Hyundai, like, who cares? Whatever the business is, if it's your dream job, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, that's one experience and it's one company. And if you're working if your client roster is Hyundai and Disney and Netflix and a food company, that's so much more experience in 1 year, you know, variables of experience than I only worked at Disney or I only worked at Hyundai. So, and of course, if you work at Disney, I mean, my goodness, to work for this multinational corporation with the smartest of the smart people, or a Netflix, those come with their own benefits as well. So it really comes to weighing things out. But yeah, I'm an agency person for the start. I think for me personally, like, I would love to be in-house somewhere, but I would never trade the years that I've had in agency settings, because the amount of knowledge that you pick up, you just can't beat it. You just can't.
Awesome.
I like one last thing. I like to look at it this way. You've done your 4 years in undergrad. You've learned all the practical skills, all the theory and everything. As soon as you graduate, think of it as, I still have 2 more years left, and it's the real life. Again, to what everybody said, agency is the best boot camp. You'll grow thick skin. You'll get all the little things that people don't talk about, like how to write an appropriate email to a client, how to reply all instead of just sending a one-off when somebody, because, you know, sometimes students are nervous to reply to everybody. Those things are so important. And those little things, it'll hit you as fast as anything can in your first year, but you will be so appreciative of going through that. And then after 2 years, try in-house. It's slower, take a bit more. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not slower. Like you said, some are slower, some are just as fast paced. But, you know, there are different spaces. People have different feelings, and it may work there, but do agency. I recommend it. Highly recommend it.
And to your point, Marcus, if you do agency, you go to in-house and you realize, it's not what I want, you have the agency experience. So you can always, you know, pivot back, right? It's always easier to go back once you've had the experience somewhere versus not having the experience. That's spoken from your HR fairy godmother. So this is a very good question. I want to ask all of you, especially with us being beepers. Have you ever experienced a problem where you feel your voice wasn't being heard when working in this industry? How do you keep fighting through that adversity? Not to be negative, but I've heard firsthand stories about Black people in journalism not being fair.
I mean, it's funny. I just got goosebumps from that, because it's true. It's true. Like, the matter of the fact is, if you have Black or brown skin, regardless of what industry you're working in, you're going to hit hurdles. Like, I think the good thing and hopeful thing is that some of us are moving past a point where we have to ask if that's the case because we know it's the case. So it's like, first of all, let's all get on the same page and just admit the facts and the truth of the matter. It's the case. And it depends on a lot of things. It depends on your geography. It depends on age, depends on your gender, your sexual orientation. These all add layers to identity, which could be a bigger hurdle for you. So coming at things as a Black woman, I absolutely have encountered things where I've been shut out, I haven't been listened to, where I've seen that the men in the room have been given more space or more opportunity to fail or more opportunity to even speak up. And I think at the end of the day, the thing you have to really focus on, regardless of how things get, how bad they get, is your passion and purpose, first of all, is have that drilled into your brain, drilled into your heart, so that you know, am I doing this for a reason? How valuable is this experience? How much should I be pushing back? How much do I want to speak up? How much do I need to correct this course? A lot of it has to do with your passion and your purpose. If you're saying, should I check out of this job and go somewhere else? Well, does this job feed into my purpose, my larger purpose in the world and in my career? If it does, maybe you figure out ways to break through that moment. Maybe you say, you know what, I could be better off at another organization. But then also just banding up with other people. I am the queen of camaraderie. For me, loyalty and camaraderie are some of the biggest, if not the two biggest things that I care about in any of my relationships, whether it's professional, romantic, platonic, whatever the case is. I think camaraderie is a really big thing. And if you're running into these hurdles at work, if you have a little cohort of 2 or 3 or 5 people who you can bounce ideas off of, get advice from, or even just commiserate together, that makes such a big difference in your mental health, your mental well-being, and also being able to make decisions. I think a lot of people will make a decision in their own world. And we know that your judgment gets clouded sometimes. Your judgment gets clouded if you're in stressful situations. If you're the person in the middle of the drama, you might be flooded with emotions. You might not see a way out, but your friend at work next to you might be able to say, you know what, pause, take a step back. This is what I see. I see a path that you're not seeing. So all of these little elements make a big difference. I think the reality is that all of us have had jobs that we've hated at some point, or we've had elements of jobs that we've hated. Maybe we've had bosses that we've hated, whatever the case is. We've all been there. It's unavoidable. It's just a matter of how you learn to deal with those situations and navigate either through them or out of them.
I have so many thoughts. I mean, yes, having a voice, like, how do you figure out how to have a voice, especially when the majority of the room doesn't look like you, or they don't think that you know what you're talking about? Even if, you know, you do have years of experience. I think this happens at no matter which level. I just think it's part of what comes with the world that we live in, no matter how woke a company wants to say that they are. So the way that I tend to deal with things like that, I try to stay close to like the results and the data. Like if it's something where, okay, maybe I had a hunch and no one's listening to me in a certain meeting, I will go call 10 reporters, soft sound them off the record, which we know there's no such thing as that. But if you have the strong relationships, you can get some solid feedback and literally take those the 10 pieces of feedback. Like, I told you guys this wasn't going to work. I know you wanted these set of publications as a result. I am giving you feedback from them. I'm telling you why this is not going to work. So now it's not you having to listen to me or you thinking that I'm being overly negative. I'm literally giving you feedback from the horse's mouth. Another thing that I do is, like, you know, I don't ask for permission a lot, and I also don't ask for forgiveness. So I know that's not really the way the quip goes, and I piss a lot of people off that way. But I mean, if you've got the results, you know, and then you have the strong support of your manager and whatever sort of agency leadership, as long as you have a few folks like from your mentorship cohort within the company that are really there to help set you up for success, you can always get a little bit of cover on the back end on things like that. but yeah, just keep speaking up. Keep speaking up. Period. Like I don't care like if you get annoyed, like I'm gonna keep speaking up and you're either gonna listen or not. But you know, that's just me.
Marcus or Dominique, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think having a thick skin helps. Building camaraderie around you helps. You know, having those friendships and those relationships helps. For me, I think one of the ways I combated it, and this might be why I love data, because I would come with my ideas for social media and some campaign I wanted to run, and it gets shot down. I'm like, okay, so I'll go back, I'll pull some numbers, and now I'll come back and I'll be like, but what about these numbers? You can't say no to the numbers. You might say no to me, but the numbers are saying, yo, we need to rethink our Instagram strategy. So I think having your proof, and like Dwight was saying, don't take that no for an answer. Just find a way to get around that no, right? If it's going back and pulling more data, if it's going back doing more research, go extra. Unfortunately, we have to go a little bit extra. It's not right, you know. Hopefully it changes, but be willing and be understanding that sometimes you got to go a little bit extra and know which avenue you're going to do that with.
Marcus, what about you?
Yeah, I think one thing I want to add is be an agent of change. So if you do see that kind of company culture, talk to HR, you know, some kind of those tasks there, but also create the company in your mind that you want to see. And that is recommending individuals to be hired, people who think like you, who not just physically look like you, but still have that mindset and that culture kind of, this is what I want my company to be, and this is what I want them to stand for. Now, that's not something that'll happen immediately. And as a new hire, you won't have that power just yet. But through time, making those connections, that network, you know, speaking up when the opportunity presents itself, that like, hey, this is a cool change. Why don't we try this? Or this is a cool person, I met them. They have these great ideas. They come from a different space. Bring them in and kind of be that agent of change. So think the long run. If that makes any sense right there, I hope that kind of came across there.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I know we are coming up on time. We have about 8 minutes left. And so I'm going to ask for some words of wisdom from all of you PR comm professionals. And with those words of wisdom, I had a great question that came up in the chat that I'm curious myself. As PR professionals, or comm professionals, what's your one must-have app in your arsenal? It's a good question, right?
You know, actually for me, that's a really hard one because personally, like I'm really into video editing stuff right now for social media, but on a professional level, I think the one thing I use consistently, no matter what task I'm actually doing, is the dictionary app, thesaurus.com, because we write constantly. And, you know, when you're talking about the same phrase, the same messaging over and over and over again, you need different words. Yeah. And there's nothing worse than a redundant document that's just like, we think, we thought, we blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh my God, how many ways can you say innovative, groundbreaking? Like, oh my God, it gets so sick so quickly. And we all know we fall into these business jargon K-holes. But it's like, you just want to learn different language and different ways to talk about the same things. And I think understanding that different words, even if they literally mean the same exact thing, elicit different emotions, different reactions. They create different mindsets. So really understanding language and different words to communicate the same thing. I think the Thesaurus app is A+.
Awesome. Dwight, what about you?
So my word of advice, just in general, and then I'll get into the app thing. If you are trying to break into the industry and you're a recent graduate, or you're, you know, in your early first few years, my biggest advice is, if, you know, obviously build your network, but like reach out to us if you're not already a member. We're going to be your greatest resource. I just want to leave that there. Also, be unapologetic, like, and just be really comfortable with that. Just in general. But as far as a one must-have app for myself, actually, because I was trying to think along the lines of productivity. But I mean, that's really just like my email. I feel like I'm on my email all the time. I'm on Slack all the time. I'm on GChat, like all of that stuff. But I think what would be more apropos to this conversation is, if you have not already, sign up for Fishbowl. I love Fishbowl. For those of you who are not familiar with Fishbowl It is an app that essentially connects advertising, marketing, and communications professionals all in one place anonymously. So when you post, you could either post as the name of your company or your title, but you don't necessarily have to publicly post things that are super personal. You can go on Fishbowl and there are a bunch of different areas of conversations or a bunch of different channels or bowls, they call them. So you can join a group that's Black in PR. There's a whole group for them. And you can chat about any issues, any themes, any trends that you're seeing that you just want to reach out to other folks anonymously that are like-minded with you. You can reach out to recruiters and get some advice and interview tips. You can also reach out and get some advice on how much to ask for your compensation and how best to do it. You can, like, you know, the whole bowl, like daily people are saying like, what is the going rate for a, you know, mid-career PR professional in Chicago that works in health? How much should I ask for? Everybody goes on there and they're like, you know, well, I wouldn't accept it for less than blah, 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 you know, but you're getting all of this really meaningful data and information, and also a network. There is a networking portion of the app as well. But I think that has just been such a great resource, and it's also entertaining because there's like a little bit of the rumor mill on there, right? Like when they're like, oh, you know, I heard this account like dropped this agency and is now going to this other firm. So there's like a little bit of a, you know, high school sort of gossip on it, which keeps it a little interesting.
You getting the scoop on Fishbowl and getting all the tea and all that.
Yeah. So download Fishbowl. It's great.
Awesome. Marcus, what about you?
Let's see. I think I'm all about apps and programming and data and everything. So the one recommendation I can give students or even professionals is Scrivener. They have a Mac version and a Windows version, and they have it on the phone, but you can just throw everything into this one app, your immediate list, your pitches, your hits, articles that you like, and you can organize it so well. And it has a split screen so that you can just like push anything out immediately because you have everything in one space, and it has been a lifesaver for me. The other thing is Notion is great. It's the same thing. And also just a daily journal app just to write and write and write. I'm never going to give up on writing. Sorry, guys. That's just something that everybody has to just keep learning and learning. But as far as advice goes, just generally in the PR industry, love your job, love the people, meet people. Not just, you know, networking on a professional level, but get to know people and make friends. It'll make your career so much better when you can ask for advice from people, but also gossip, chisme. You know, it's fun. You meet people. It's great. That's what I take from it, and that's my advice to you: is just make as many friends as you can.
Chisme.
And Dominique, your favorite, your must-have app, and your words of wisdom.
I'll start with my must-have apps. I'll name two because both of these are important to me. I'm sure many of us probably have a Bible app. I do, and I'm telling you, when I'm about to cuss out my manager or something, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Yo, so that is a must, an absolute must. But other than that, I can go down the line, but I'll say Flipboard because I don't have the time to like be searching for articles and seeing what's out here. So Flipboard is just to show me the relevant information that I need right here, right now. And then lastly, Spark Posts. Like Pam, I love video editing, but again, there's not time for that all the time. So Spark Posts can jump in here, make me a quick little graphic, throw it on social, and keep it moving. Words of wisdom. I would say stay hungry, stay motivated, keep learning, keep going. I know this is such a strange time we're living in and things seem hard, but there is a come up at the end of all this. So don't allow like the misery of a bad situation hold you down. Like there's something to learn out there, and prepare yourself for the come up because it will come. And, you know, I want all of us to be ready for it.
Mm-hmm. I will add in my one piece of general wisdom, which I didn't do, but for me, it really is, like I said before, learning, constant learning, but more specific is investing in your personal growth and your mental health and mental well-being. And that's something that I honestly think is quite possibly a lot more important than actual professional growth skills, just because this is an extremely stressful job. We are consistently ranked in the top 10 most stressful jobs in the US. The things you come up against, the deadlines, the honestly decisions you make that could make or break an entire company or line of business or your own company, whatever the case is. And then working with people. PR is an industry, communications is an industry of personalities. Not everyone's great. Not everyone deserves to be where they are. And all of these different elements can make very stressful, difficult, emotional, angering situations, lots of positive, lots of negatives. So you can honestly, especially in the early years, you can honestly go through a lot of super high highs, really low lows. And I think the important thing is to be resilient, but you can't just build resilience out of nothing. It takes intention and it takes work. So for me, just as Dom has his Bible app, I use a lot of meditation apps. My podcast that I listen to a lot of Jay Shetty. I listen to the Happy Lab with Dr. Lori. Like, it's just all of these different things that teach you how to be comfortable with yourself, to teach you how to grow internally, mentally, emotionally, and then also teaching you how to work with other people and to grow relationships with other people, because at the end of the day, we are a business of relationships. So I think being able to have a very strong and positive relationship with yourself is the most important thing you can possibly do as you're growing in this industry. And then also learning how to build those strong relationships with other people, because it's not easy. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So you have to really learn how to navigate those experiences without honestly breaking. And I've seen a lot of people in this industry break. It happens. So just learning how to navigate those situations is really important.
I think that's an excellent place to leave it, especially in this time, mental health, mental wellness. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself, right, before you can go and help, your clients. Last thing before we go, we have one request, Marcus, to repeat your apps again. Your two apps that you.
So one is Scrivener. It's spelled, I know it's Scrivener.
Okay.
And I think it's like $30 or $40. It's not too bad, but I love it. Like, it just works so well. And then, there was one more. What else did I say? Notion is a good one. That one's a bit more complex, but that's great. Also, there's an app called Drafts, which you can, if you have a quick idea, a quick note, a podcast you're reading, you can quickly capture that and it'll just organize it for you. So it's boom, 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 you're done. And you can forget about it until you need to bring it back. So those are kind of my top three.
Literally an app for everything. Well, I thank all of you for spending your Sunday with us today. This is great, practical, real tea, real scoop. I learned some things that I didn't know. I hope all of you that tuned in did as well. Please continue to leave comments if there are questions that you have. We can respond to it. If you like this webinar, if you want to see more of this type of thing, please let us know as well. And if you have not joined Beepers and you're just being a looky-loo right now, come on and join. This is the kind of stuff that we do. So thank you again for your time, and everyone stay safe. I hope all of you that tuned in did as well. I'm still talking. Okay. And on that note, goodbye, everyone. Thank you all.
Everybody, thank you.